1. Introduction. My name is Jane Miller. I am 26 years old. I live in a quiet town called Riverhill. My life has been simple, but it was not always easy. When I was 16, my mother, Opal, left me. She did not say goodbye. She just disappeared one morning. I remember that day well. The kitchen was cold. Her teacup was still on the table, empty. From that moment, a deep sadness stayed with me. I felt a strong dislike for her name. It reminded me of her leaving. My mother's sister, my aunt, took care of me after that. She tried her best to raise me. She gave me a home and food. She tried to make me happy. But the pain of being left alone never truly went away. It was always there, a quiet ache inside me. I learned to be strong. I learned to take care of myself. I learned not to show my feelings easily. However, deep inside my heart, I still had one big question for my mother. Why did you leave me? 10 years passed since that morning. I grew up. I found a job as a florist. I worked with flowers every day. I liked the colors and the smells of the flowers. My shop was a calm place. I lived a simple, quiet life. I thought my life would continue this way forever, without big changes. But things do not always stay the same. Sometimes, something happens that changes everything. For me, that change began when an old friend came back to town. His name was Henry. Henry returned to Riverhill after many years away. His return brought new feelings and new thoughts. I did not know it then, but his coming back would soon disrupt my quiet life. It would bring me closer to the past I had always tried to forget. It would make me think about my mother again and the questions I still had for her. This was the beginning of a new chapter. 2. An old friend comes back. One afternoon, I was working in my flower shop. The sweet smell of roses filled the air. My hands were busy arranging flowers when a shadow fell across the door. I looked up. There stood a man. For a moment, I did not know him. Then he smiled. It was the same smile from my childhood. It was Henry Davis. My heart jumped. Henry, I had not seen him for 10 years. He was my childhood friend. We grew up on the same street. We rode bikes together and shared many secrets. We promised to be friends forever. But after high school, he moved to a big city. I always liked him more than just a friend. I loved him, but I never told him. He looked different now. He wore a smart suit and his hair was neat. He looked like a man, not the boy I remembered, but his eyes were still warm and kind. Jane. You haven't changed, he said. His voice was deeper now. Henry, it's really you, I replied. My voice was a little surprised. He came into the shop. We stood for a moment just looking at each other. Then we found 2 chairs and sat down. We started to talk and we talked for hours. We spoke about everything. Henry told me about his work in the city. He said he sometimes missed Riverhill. I told him about my quiet life as a florist. We also talked about our past. We laughed about funny things we did as children. We remembered our games and our secret places. It felt like no time had passed. It was easy to talk to him. He was still the kind Henry I knew. As the sun began to set, Henry said he had to leave. He promised to visit again very soon. After he left, the shop felt empty. But my heart felt full. His return was a big surprise. It felt like a new beginning. My quiet life was about to change. I did not know what would happen, but I felt a new feeling inside me. Henry was back, and everything felt different. I hoped my old feelings for him would not cause problems. This was the start of a new part of my life story. 3. I see my mother. Jane went to a small cafe. It was early evening, and rain fell softly outside. Henry had asked her to meet him there. Jane arrived a little early, as she often did. She chose a table near the window. From there, she could watch the street and the people walking by, holding colorful umbrellas. The cafe was warm and smelled pleasantly of coffee and sweet pastries. She waited for Henry to arrive. She thought about their meeting the day before. It had been good to see him again after 10 years. Her heart felt lighter when he smiled. She hoped they could spend more time together. While she was looking out the window, her eyes landed on a woman. The woman wore a bright red coat and sat at a table alone, drinking coffee. Her hair was a light color. She looked calm, though a little sad. Jane watched her for a moment. Something about the woman felt very familiar. Then the woman turned her head slightly, looking towards the window. Jane's breath caught in her throat. Her hands began to shake. It was her mother. Opal, 10 years. 10 long years had passed since Jane last saw her face. And now her mother was here, in this very cafe, just a few tables away. She looked almost the same, only a little older. Jane felt a sudden, powerful wave of shock. Her mind raced with questions. Why was she here? Why now? All the old, painful feelings came rushing back. The hurt of being abandoned, the burning anger, and the many questions she had carried in her heart for so long. Her face felt hot, then cold. She wanted to stand up and quickly walk away, but her legs would not obey. She wanted to shout, but no sound would come out. She just stared at the woman in the red coat, her mother, unable to move or speak. Just then, Henry walked into the cafe. He looked around the room and soon saw Jane sitting by the window. He smiled and walked directly towards her table. When he reached her, he saw her pale face and wide, shocked eyes. "Jane, what is wrong?" he asked, his voice full of worry. He sat down quickly across from her. Jane could barely speak. She pointed a shaking finger towards the woman in the red coat. "That woman," she whispered, her voice very quiet and unsteady. "She is my mother." Henry looked at the woman for a moment. His expression changed, but he did not look surprised to see Opal. He looked back at Jane, his eyes kind and understanding. Jane, he said softly, Opal has actually been back in Riverhill for some months now. She lives in a house near the lake. She has been living a very quiet life. Jane could not believe what she was hearing. Months, and no one had told her, not her aunt, not anyone she knew. She felt a mix of new anger and deep confusion. Why did Henry know this, and why was this a secret from her? A strong feeling of fear also grew inside her. Her mother was back. After all this time, she was here. What did this mean for Jane's quiet life? The many questions filled her head like a sudden, unexpected storm. 4. A hard conversation. Jane felt very unsure. A part of her wanted to run from her mother, Opal. The anger and hurt from 10 years ago were strong inside her. But Henry told her she should go. He said, "Jane, you deserve to know why she left. You need answers for yourself." His words made Jane think deeply. Maybe Henry was right. She had carried this question for 10 years. It was time to try and get an answer, even if it was a hard one. One evening, Jane walked slowly to Opal's house. The street was quiet and the air was cool. Her heart beat fast in her chest. She took a deep breath and knocked on the door. After a long moment, the door opened slowly. Opal stood there. Her eyes were red and tears began to fall down her face. "Jane," Opal whispered. Her voice was soft. "You have grown into such a beautiful woman." Jane felt a wave of cold anger. "Don't say my name," Jane said. Her voice was cold and hard. "You lost the right to call me that a long time ago when you left me." Opal looked down at her hands. She tried to speak again, her voice shaking. "I am truly sorry, Jane. I made a mistake. Please let me explain everything to you." Jane did not move from the doorway. Her arms were crossed. "Explain what?" "Why you disappeared and left me alone when I was 16. Opal started to talk, her story coming out in a rush. She said she was in serious trouble. She owed money to some very bad people. These people threatened her. She claimed she left Riverhill to protect Jane. Opal believed that if she stayed, Jane would also be in danger. Leaving was her only way to keep Jane safe, she claimed. Jane listened to every word, but she found it very hard to believe. 10 years was a long time to be gone without a word. Why did she not try to contact her at all? Why did she just disappear completely? The explanation felt like an excuse, not a real reason. Jane looked at her mother's face, searching for truth, but she only felt more confusion and deep pain. It was difficult to accept this story. She felt a mix of sadness and deep anger. It was not enough. Later that night, Jane was back at Henry's apartment. Tears streamed down her face. She told him everything Opal had said. Henry listened quietly. Then he put his arm around her shoulders. He held her close as she cried. "It's okay to feel this way, Jane," Henry said. His voice was calm and kind. "You don't have to forgive her if you don't want to, but please try not to let hate consume you. Don't let it control your life and your future." His words were a comfort. Henry was always strong and steady. He understood her pain. He was her friend and her support. His advice was wise and gentle. Jane knew he was right. Holding on to hate would only hurt her more in the end, but letting go felt impossible right now. The conversation with Opal had been hard. It had opened old wounds, but it had given Jane a small part of the answers she wanted. She still had many questions, but Henry was there. 5. A big secret. Days passed. I could not stop thinking about my mother. Was she telling the truth? Was she really in danger? My head was full of questions. Henry told me not to let hate control me, but it was hard. My mother had left me for 10 years. Now she was back with a story I found difficult to believe. The anger was still strong. One morning, I found a letter under my door. It was a white envelope with no name. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside, there was a small photo. It showed my mother, Opal, with a man I did not know. He looked strong and important. Under the photo, there was a short note in my mother's handwriting. It said, "You deserve to know the truth. Henry's father was the reason I left." My heart beat very fast. Henry's father. What did that mean? The words hit me hard. I felt cold. This was a completely new secret. I had to know more. I quickly left my house and walked fast to my mother's place. I needed answers, and I needed them now. When I arrived, she opened the door. Her eyes looked tired and sad. "What is this?" I asked, holding out the letter and the photo. My voice was sharp. "What does this mean about Henry's father? Tell me everything." She looked at the letter, then at me. Tears started to form in her eyes. She invited me inside, and we sat down. She began to speak in a quiet voice. "Years ago," she said, "I worked as a secretary for Mr. Davis. He was Henry's father. He was a very rich and powerful man in this town." I listened closely. Every word she spoke felt heavy. "I fell in love with him," she continued, her voice shaking. "But he was married. His wife found out. She was very angry. She told me I had to leave town and never speak about it again. She threatened me and said she would hurt you if I stayed." My mind tried to understand everything. This was a very different story. "But why did you not tell me this before?" I asked. She looked down at her hands. "I was pregnant, Jane. I did not know if the baby was your father's or Mr. Davis's. I was so scared. I left to keep you safe from his powerful family." I could not breathe. My head felt light. "Are you saying," I whispered, "that Henry might be my half-brother?" She slowly nodded her head, and tears fell down her face. The world around me seemed to stop. Henry, my childhood friend, the boy I loved, could be my brother. It was a big secret. It changed everything about my life. I felt shock, fear, and deep confusion. My life was turning upside down again. 6. We look for the truth. The words from my mother's letter stayed in my mind. Henry's father, my half-brother. I felt a deep sadness, a heavy weight in my chest. I could not look at Henry. Every time I thought of his kind smile, I felt both love and a terrible fear. What if everything between us was wrong? What if we were truly family? This thought made my heart ache. For a few days, I stayed away from Henry. I did not answer his calls. I did not go to the flower shop as much. I tried to avoid the places where I knew he would be. My mind was full of questions and worries. Henry noticed my distance. He knew something was wrong. One evening, he came to my flower shop. His face looked worried. "Jane," he said softly, "please talk to me." "Is something wrong? Did I do something to upset you?" My heart was beating fast. I took a deep breath, knowing I had to tell him. Slowly, I told him everything. I spoke about the anonymous letter, about my mother's shocking confession of her affair with his father, and the terrible thought that we might be half-siblings. I watched his face as I spoke, afraid of his reaction. Henry listened quietly. For a long moment, he said nothing. His face was serious and thoughtful. Then he spoke. "My father was not a good man in many ways," he said, "but I do not believe this part. He would not have had a child with your mother and kept it secret like this." He sounded sure. We both knew we needed to find the real truth. We decided to search for answers together. It felt right to face this big secret as a team, not alone. Henry started looking through his late father's old papers. His father had passed away years ago, so there were many boxes to open, full of old documents and letters. I went to my mother's house. I looked through her old letters, hidden in a dusty box under her bed. My hands shook as I read her old handwriting, hoping to find a clue. We spent 2 long days searching, each in our own way, for anything that could help us understand the past. After these 2 days, Henry called me. "Jane, I found something," he said. I went to his house quickly, my heart full of hope and fear. He held an old letter in his hand. It was from his father, Mr. Davis, to my mother, Opal. Henry slowly read the words aloud. "Opal, I am truly sorry for everything. The child is not mine, but I will make sure you are safe and that no one harms you or your family." My eyes filled with tears. The words were clear. I was not his daughter. Henry was not my half-brother. A huge weight lifted from my heart. I felt a sudden rush of happiness, mixed with the pain of all the worry that had filled my days. We looked at each other, and a smile slowly came to my face. The truth, after so much confusion and fear, was finally out. It was a truth that changed everything, opening a new path for us both. 7, I say goodbye. After Henry and I found the truth, I knew I had to see my mother one more time. The letter from Henry's father cleared many things. It showed that Henry was not my brother. It also showed that my mother had been afraid and alone. My feelings were still mixed, but the big anger was gone. I wanted to understand. I went to her small house near the lake. The door was open a little. I walked inside. My mother was sitting in a chair by the window. She looked very tired. Her face was thin and her skin was pale. She had many medicine bottles on the table next to her. She saw me and tried to smile. Her smile was weak. "Jane," she whispered. Her voice was soft, not strong like before. "You came." I sat down on a chair across from her. My heart felt heavy. "You are sick," I said. It was not a question. She nodded slowly. "Yes, Jane, I am very sick. The doctors say I do not have much time left." She looked at her hands. "I did not come back to Riverhill to cause you trouble. I came back because I wanted to see you, one last time." Hearing her words, a strange calm came over me. All the years of anger, the pain of being left alone, it all started to fade. It was like a heavy cloud lifting from my mind. I looked at my mother, not as the woman who abandoned me, but as a woman who was scared and now facing the end. She was still my mother. I reached out and took her hand. Her skin was cool and thin. Tears came to my eyes. "I hated you for so long, Mom," I said, my voice shaking. "But even with all that hate, I never stopped hoping you would come back to me. I always wished for you." She squeezed my hand gently. A tear rolled down her cheek. "I know, my dear, you are stronger than I ever was. You found your way, even without me." She closed her eyes for a moment. "I am so sorry for everything." We sat in silence for a long time, just holding hands. The sun began to set, painting the sky orange and pink. Her breathing became very quiet. After some time, she opened her eyes and looked at me one last time. There was peace in her eyes. Then she closed them again. This time, her hand went limp in mine. She was gone. My mother left me again. But this time, it was different. This time, I understood. This time, I forgave her. There was no anger left, only a quiet sadness and a strange feeling of peace. It was goodbye, but it was also a new beginning for my heart. I had found my mother, and I had let her go, free from the pain of the past. A new life. After my mother's funeral, Henry stayed with me. He was always there, a strong and quiet support. The days after were hard, but I was not alone. Henry helped me feel safe and calm. My journey had been full of pain and loss. For many years, anger was a big part of my heart. But now, after finding the truth and forgiving my mother, things felt different. My heart began to change. I understood more. I forgave more. The heavy weight I carried for so long slowly lifted away. I started to find peace. It was a new feeling, a soft and warm light after a long, dark time. The world seemed brighter. Henry and I spent a lot of time together. We often went to the lake. The water was calm and the sky looked endless. It felt like a fresh start, a new beginning for both of us. We talked about our dreams, about simple joys, and about building a home together. One evening, as we stood by the lake, Henry spoke softly. "You have been through so much, Jane," he said. "You deserve peace and love." I looked at him. He was the boy from my childhood who became the man who stayed by my side through everything. "I think I already found both," I told him. He gently took my hand. We did not need more words. Our future would be built on love, a strong and true love that had grown through many difficult times. Sometimes I still visit my mother's grave. I bring her white lilies. They were her favorite flowers. I stand there and talk to her in my heart. "I met you again, Mom," I whisper, "and I forgave you. Thank you for giving me life. Even if it took many years, I found my way." Henry always waits beside me. He is quiet, loyal, and true. He is my partner, my friend, and my love. After all the secrets and the lies, love found its way back to me. It was a new life, full of hope and happiness. I was ready for it.